All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Winners Ways podcast. This is where we talk about your career, we talk about your money, and we give you life motivation to help you excel. And today, I'm super excited to have a guest with us. We have Vernon with us today. Drew is a marketing guru, and he's also passionate about childhood education. So we are going to be hearing from my guests as we delve into entrepreneurship, marketing, and we are also going to be talking about childhood education. So, hey, Drew, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here.
All right. Drew, do you mind telling my listeners about you, what you currently do, and what's going on with you?
Sure thing. Currently, I'm the marketing director for a company called Tonies, which is a screen-free speaker box system for kids. It's kind of a split between an entertainment device and an education device for kids. Before I came to this company, I worked for Lego. I managed the preschool business for Lego. And before that, I was actually in beauty marketing. So I worked on some big beauty brands. And then I made the transition into the toy industry and into childhood education.
Oh, that's awesome. So why the toy industry? What specifically about Tonies that attracted you to the company for you to be working with them as their marketing director?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I started out in the beauty industry and I was selling a lot of mascara and lotion and shampoo. And after a few years of that, it wasn't very exciting to me. It's not something that I wanted to spend my whole career on. And so that's when I made the decision to go over to the toy industry, to Lego. And I had been a fan of Lego for since I was a child, just because it's a fun product, it's a fun brand. And I was able to do some interesting and creative programs while I was at Lego. I came across Tony's about 2.5 years ago. They had been successful in Germany. So the company was actually started by a couple of dads who met on the board of a preschool together. They saw that their children's teacher was using a CD player to play songs and stories in the classroom. And they thought to themselves, gosh, how long have CDs been around? They're kind of old technology. They scratch and they break. And the most important thing is that young kids, 2, 3, 4-year-old kids couldn't use CD players without adult supervision. And that's why they wanted to create the Tony box, which again has no screen. It uses figures called Tonies to play stories, to play songs. And I just thought, what an interesting device. After the success in Germany, they were looking to expand to the US. And so I came on to help with the American launch.
Oh, that's awesome. So what role would you say marketing plays in business development? And I'm speaking about growing and making profits in a business.
Sure. Well, business is basically being able to solve a problem or an issue that isn't currently being addressed or isn't being addressed well, and you come up with a product or a service. If you come up with a product or a service, you need to tell people about it. And so that's the role of marketing, is to make sure that, number one, people know who you are, they know what you do, and they want to know more, or they want to buy what you have to offer. So my role is to make sure that everybody knows about Tony's and why it's great for kids.
And how do you do that? And the reason why I'm asking is that I know these days there's Facebook ad, Google ad. How specifically do you get a word out through marketing?
Yeah, there are a lot of tools at your disposal as a marketer. It's a very busy and kind of cluttered landscape. Most people are online most of the day. They have their smartphones, they have their devices. And so a lot of our marketing is done through those touch points. When you're launching a new product that people don't know or have never heard of before, it's very important to show rather than just to tell. And so that's particularly true with the Tony box. We can sit here and talk about it, but if you've never seen a picture or a video of one, it's hard to exactly know what I'm saying. And so we do a lot of TV, we do a lot of video, just to demonstrate the product in use. And most importantly, we show kids using the product, because that gives parents a better sense for what the product is and why they should have one in their household.
And I like what you guys are doing. You call it promote screen-free education for children. I know if care is not taken, I don't know about you, kids can stay on iPad all through the day, or they get on YouTube, watch videos. They can spend hours on those devices, and I'm talking about technology here. So tell us, what do you mean by screen-free education?
Yeah, I think what we've seen in the last few years is the proliferation of screens. So kids are spending more time on screens than ever before, and they're spending time on screens at earlier ages than ever before. And I think this was really caused in large part by COVID, the pandemic that we've all gone through, because our schools shut down. Our childcare solutions were shut down. A lot of us started working from home. And the easiest thing that you can do as a parent is to give your child your smartphone or to put them in front of a Netflix show. Because let's be honest, it's a great babysitter. And they can, like you said, they can play games, they can watch things. The detriment to this is that they're staring at a screen all day. It affects their brain. It affects their ability to focus, their ability to pay attention. It's causing a lot of social anxiety among children. It's causing a lot of behavior problems among children. And I don't know about you, I've got 3 kids, but if you've ever tried to take a screen away from a child, that can be a battle on its own. No. So what do you do about it? Well, you can give them a coloring book, you can give them a puzzle, and all those things might work for a bit of time. The great thing about the Tony box is that you're able to get the engagement with children without the screen, because everything is done through touch. You put a figure on the box and it will play a story. It will sing songs. And so it trains the focus of the child to not rely on the screen or to stare at something, but to listen. And that can be a great training for them, because they can learn to listen to new words, they can learn to listen to stories, and it helps their attention and it helps their ability to learn through hearing rather than just seeing.
Oh, that's good. I know about Lego. My kids, they play with Lego when they were much younger, building blocks, and that was awesome. But I do not know much about Tonies, and I want to hear from you. How does it work? Is it a musical box? I know you said it helps them to listen. How does it work? Do you have maybe some examples that you can share with us, or where can we find them?
Yeah, I can show you, since we're on video screen. For your listeners, they might need to go to tonies.com to take a look at tonies.com. But what I'm holding here is a Tony box. It's a 5-inch screen-free speaker, and around the speaker is a layer of foam. And that's because kids are rough with it. They want to squeeze it. They want to roll it around. They might try to use it as a bowling ball, who knows? But it's a speaker box. And then we have these figures. They're about 2 to 3 inches tall, and they're called Tonies. So right now I've got Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. I'm going to put Cookie Monster on the Tony box, and I'm going to pinch the ear to wake it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm going to wake it up here. That's actually Elmo, I think, on the cookie.
Okay.
There's Cookie Monster.
Because they make me stronger, and me can eat them anytime.
So this is good for their entertainment and education, from what I'm seeing. So that's good.
Exactly. So we can do any types of characters, from Sesame Street to Disney to Dr. Seuss. We can do songs, we can do stories. We also do mindfulness and meditation content, maybe white noise or lullabies for younger kids. But it's really just to be a resource in your home or in a classroom to be able to play different types of content.
So how can we use technology to improve early education for our kids?
The great thing about technology is it opens up the world around us. When you are in an empty room, there's not much to look at or listen to. But when you bring in a character that can tell you a story or can read you a book or sing a song, that brings the world from near and far into your home. And the more stories that we can give our kids, the more kind of examples we can give them or reference points we can give them on how to kind of deal with the world around them. So I like to tell people that most stories are really just a simple formula. There's a hero who has a challenge or an obstacle to get to a reward or a treasure.
Right.
And so if you give your children enough of these stories to show them how heroes dealt with problems, well, pretty soon they're going to learn how they can be the heroes of their own story and how they can use creative thinking and critical thinking to overcome their own challenges and their own problems, which is a great skill to use and to develop as a young child.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is about creativity, critical thinking, and from what I also saw, the Tony box can help them to unleash their creativity, and it's also helpful in terms of developing kids' listening skills. So that's good. Now, what role does storytelling plays in childhood development?
I think with stories that it's really up to the imagination of the author and to the listener to make the world open up to them. And so it doesn't have to be grounded in reality. You might have a fantasy story, you might have science fiction story, or it might be a real world story. But what they all have in common is they all illustrate the hero's journey or the path that we go to solving our problems. And with as many problems as we have in the world today, what better way than to teach the new generation, the up and coming kids, on how to solve problems? Because let's face it, there are going to be a lot of challenges for them and for the world. And we need kids that know how to make sense of it. We need kids that can be creative thinkers, that can use imagination to create things that have never been imagined before, and to create things that, you know, are new to the world.
Awesome. So what age group are your target users, if I may ask, for the Tony box?
Yeah, so we have been in the United States for about 2 years, and our focus with releasing these characters has been primarily on the preschool ages. I would say probably about ages 2 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually do have Tonies that are just white noise or just lullabies. So it can actually be a white noise machine for an infant, and that can grow with the child. And you can get into the preschool stories like Dr. Seuss. And then as they get older into ages, 6, 7, 8, we have nonfiction content. So we have a partnership with National Geographic and others that can teach them about space or dinosaurs or wildlife. And so it's really a very versatile tool that can grow with the child.
Okay. So Drew, are there maybe some steps or action plans that you would recommend to maybe parents out there that have kids in that age categories to help them develop their kids and prepare them for the future?
Yeah, number one is just giving them the tools. I like to recommend, building a library of Tonies, because you can expose them to many different stories. One of the other elements to the Tony box that I haven't mentioned are actually the ones that come blank. And so instead of the preloaded content, you can actually create your own content on the blank Tonies, up to 90 minutes per figure. And so I like to recommend this to parents as a way to get kids to write their own songs, their own poems, their own stories, And that gets them away from just a listening experience into an active creating experience. And I think it's really the combination of consuming content and creating content that makes for a well-rounded child who knows how to tackle the challenges that will come.
Obviously, you guys are all about creativity, and you just mentioned what I think is one way of helping kids to develop their creative brain, and I want to hear from you if there are other suggestions or recommendations that can help, that we can use to teach children how to be more creative.
Sure. I like to give an example from when I worked at Lego. And when I worked there, I saw that a lot of the Lego sets that we sell come in boxes, and you open up the box and you dump out the pieces, and there's a little instruction booklet. And you start at the beginning with step 1, step 2, step 3, and you go through the whole booklet and you do exactly what it says. And at the end, you're going to have a rocket ship or a castle or whatever the Lego set is going to be. And that's a type of play, and there's a type of learning that comes from following instructions, but that's not the only type of play. And so you say, well, at Lego, they also sell the big yellow buckets of brick. You open it up, you dump it out, there's a bunch of bricks, there's no instructions, and you can build whatever you want. And that's another type of play. What I see in my experience at Lego and now at Tonies is that there's a gap between the two experiences, because if you don't have the tools or the skills and you dump out a bucket of Lego bricks, your creation or whatever you build might not be very good, and that's okay. But the goal is to get to that experience of having that rocket ship or that castle without the instruction booklet. And the way that you do that is by giving a guided experience rather than a dictated experience. You want to give the child creative prompts. So you don't give them the whole picture. You give them a couple of pieces of the picture, and then you have them solve for the blank. And so that can be done in a few different ways. And in the case of writing a story, you might give them a prompt to say, your character is a grizzly bear, and your grizzly bear has 2 heads, and I'm making it up, obviously.
Yeah.
Give them something to start with.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like improv. If you're into like comedy or improv, it's always about saying yes and
Right.
it's building on the facts that you've outlined, and it's taking them through to a story. So it might end up being silly, but that's going to guide them into a more creative experience that's going to give them a better end result than just dumping out a bucket of bricks and telling them to do whatever.
Okay, that's cool. So you as a marketing director, of course, based on your experience now, you would have seen some maybe mistakes that people make when it comes to marketing. What are those things that you would consider as maybe mistakes that people are making in terms of promoting their business or their products?
I think the biggest mistake is it's too complicated. And if you can't explain your product in 30 seconds or 15 seconds, and you can't illustrate why it's going to help somebody and benefit them in their life, then they're probably going to keep scrolling, keep walking, and you'll never get a second chance. And so we live in a world where people are bombarded with advertisements. They're very busy. People have meetings, they have things to do, things to get to. The number one mistake is don't overcomplicate it.
Keep it simple. So I like that. On the other side, I also want to hear from you. Maybe there are some 1 or 2 things that you consider as best practices in marketing that you can share with us.
Best practices, I'll give 2. One is just to make sure that you're unique. If you're doing something the exact same way as somebody else, you're always going to be fighting the competition. So you need to make sure that you have a unique product or service that you can be the best at. And then I would say the second one is just to keep it fun, and don't take it so seriously. I think when people are stressed out or they make it too serious, then it doesn't always work. And so I am a big proponent of the concept of flow, which is to find the sweet spot between something being too simple and too complex. And if you have the right balance and you keep it fun, then you'll find your flow, and people will gravitate to you.
Awesome. So how is Toniebox? How is it a unique product?
I would say absolutely. You know, people ask me why I would leave Lego to go to a brand new company, which is a valid question. And, you know, being in the toy industry, I will go to Toy Fair in New York. It's one of the biggest toy fairs every year. And it will take, you know, 3, maybe 4 hours to walk the trade show floor with hundreds, if not thousands, of different toy manufacturers. Every year, I'll spend 4 hours walking and looking at every single company. And I can tell you with certainty that not very many companies are as unique as Tonies. And because I saw that spark, that's what made me want to be a part of it.
Awesome. That's good. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, Drew, as we are rounding up on this interview, do you mind sharing maybe one career advice that you've received over your career?
I don't know if I received it. It was maybe just something that I learned along the way.
Yeah.
Because I know that people have dreams and they say, oh, if I could just do this one thing, I would be so happy, and that's what I want to do. The reality is you can't just go out and get your dream job overnight. It takes some time. And so my advice would be just every move that you make, have it be one step closer to your dream. And so I've tried to do that with marketing, because I've always been a fan of marketing. It's always been a passion of mine. But, you know, I started out selling mascara and lotion, and it wasn't the category that I wanted to be into. And so every step that I made, I got a little bit closer to exactly where I wanted to be. And now that I've been, you know, in marketing for over 10 years, I can confidently say that, you know, I've got one of the best jobs in the world, because I love what I do. I believe in the product. I believe in its ability to impact the world. And there's nothing more that I could ask for.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Drew, for sharing that. I always tell people to find that sweet spot, find a job that they love, because I really believe that if you do what you love, you are going to do your best job. Thank you, Drew, for coming on the show. We enjoy this conversation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Thanks so much.
All right.